Hey, everybody, and welcome to the 9 to Side podcast, where we chat with super amazing and inspirational people who pounded the pavement before and after their 9 to 5s to get their side hustles off the ground. After listening to the interviews with these amazing guests, you'll walk away with a refreshed pep in your step and a newfound motivation to make your side hustle a reality. Hey, everybody, and welcome to Season 1, Episode 11. Can't believe it's Episode 11 already. That's crazy. I was thinking the other day as I was working my 9 to 5 job and on my 7th Zoom call of the day or what have you, how interesting it is. And I don't know, I just kind of forget that, now working remote is like, it's the norm and everybody does it. You see people's backgrounds, their cats, their kids, their unmade beds, their dirty sinks. It's like no big deal. Everybody's like, that's cool. Let me see your house and where you live. It's like MTV Cribs every single day when you're on a Zoom call, which is crazy because it wasn't always like that not too long ago. I remember back in the day, I want to say back in the day, but pre-COVID, a little before COVID, but working from home was unheard of in most jobs, unless you were working in a specific industry. But it was seen as an absolute privilege to work from home. If you were given that privilege, not everybody in the company, it definitely wasn't company wide. And I feel like the people that did work from home would miss out on that in-office atmosphere. And we're often looked at kind of differently. It was like, oh, that person's working from home, which was, big eye roll. But I just feel like now that everybody works from home and it's been so normalized because of COVID, it has completely changed, how people look at work-life balance. I mean, gone are the days of commuting an hour and a half into the city. I just think back to when my husband and I were both commuting into New York from Connecticut, which is over an hour round trip. And we had a young infant son who we were dropping off at daycare and then hoping, we never got a call because we were an hour and a half away. And then doing that every single day and spending roughly 3 hours on the train, just commuting every day and then driving from the train station home. It's just kind of crazy to think about because now that you can be at home and work at home and it's acceptable, I feel like people can manage their lives so much more efficiently now that they're given that privilege. And I also think people are just happier and more appreciative. At least I know I am. I'm speaking from personal experience, but I do feel like that is kind of the sentiment. So it made me think that my episode 11 guest is him and his partner, Lindsey. My episode 11 guest, his name is Sean, and his partner, Lindsey. I feel like we're ahead of the curve. Before working from home was cool, before remote working was cool, I feel like they already had a vision coming out of college, never wanting to work the 9 to 5, never wanting to be boxed into that kind of schedule. They love traveling. They love the freedom to not have a place that they have to be. They want to dictate their own schedule. They want to call the shots, work for themselves and do things, the way they want to do things. And they're really all about experiencing life and getting to see different cultures, which is so cool. So I feel like they've built their whole careers around making money and building businesses that allow them to kind of fulfill that lifestyle, which is so cool. And they were doing it long before COVID. I mean, now that everybody's home and getting the opportunity to maybe live in different places and work remotely, they were doing this 10 years ago. So Sean McGregor, my next guest, has such a cool business. I mean, he's been kind of an entrepreneur his whole life and he'll go into it, which is really cool. But his most recent business is called SWAP CoHosting, which stands for Stay, Work, and Play. And he's really found a niche in the Airbnb space as a superhost. He had to explain this to me, but it's very cool. He basically acts as a co-host for property owners that want to get the most out of their property. So Sean goes through the backstory of how he got into the business, kind of how it came about, and a little bit of his history of past experiences. But I think what's so interesting about Sean and just his particular side hustle is that really the aspiration to live a certain lifestyle that's free of boundaries and allows them to travel is really what drives kind of their innovation and thoughts around what they're going to do business wise and how they make money. And I think that's a really interesting way to look at things because, like I said, their whole lives have been framed around like they love to travel. They do not want to be confined to a certain location or have, the hours of the 9 to 5 workspace, dictate what they do. And so everything they build and they think of business wise is with that in mind. So here is my interview with Sean McGregor.
All right. So this began as a side hustle, and I'll get to it in a little bit of how that all occurred.
Okay.
But it definitely has become like my full-time focus and grown into something that just take little steps and it builds and you're like, oh my God, there's something here. This is amazing. People are very happy with it and I'm very happy doing it. And it gives us the freedom to be kind of location independent. And yeah, I mean, I'll go into more backstory in a few minutes, just of like how it all occurred and why it occurred and, the mounting pressures that were part of it and all that stuff. But it's definitely a full-time hustle at this point.
Okay. It's a full-time hustle. So back me up and let's talk about you and just a little bit of your background and what you started in and kind of what sort of transpired to get you to this place where you are doing this full-time hustle now.
So for me, I'd always kind of had little entrepreneurial type jobs, even as a little kid. Like I used to sell golf balls at a golf course to like make money for my football cards. I used to be a bookie essentially in like junior high and high school with my friends, like doing NFL picks. Before that I'd sold video game codes like in a Word document, like a pack for like NBA Jam. And I was like selling those in like 6th grade to friends. I went to school at Texas Tech, did my undergrad, my master's there. While I was there, started doing this bookstore with a friend. And I'd worked as like just a $5.15 per hour employee. But I started my MBA and I needed an internship at this bookstore. I needed an internship for my credit for college. And he was starting up this college bookstore. And I'm like, hey man, I need this credit for my grad school. Is there any way I can help you out? And so I ended up like being his right-hand man, going through the whole process of starting that business with him. And it was an amazing experience. Got to like hire all my own friends, kind of focus on all the things that sucked about a college bookstore experience where you're going in and you're paying hundreds of dollars and it's boring and there's no music and it's stale and it's just a boring environment. So what we did is like during buyback and book selling time, we would actually like have live music in the store. We had a keg and a margarita machine and it was free beer and free margaritas if you came in. We'd give out like free t-shirts and stuff. So that was a really cool experience in my entrepreneurial journey.
So I want to hear how too you got into like the current hustle full-time job that you're in now, because I also think is so cool about you guys is that everything you do sort of complements what your passions are in life. And that's sort of fed, what your careers are, which is, I think, everybody's dream and why I think I'm so fascinated by side hustles, because I'm like, the idea is really you take something that stems from a passion of yours and you turn it into something that's sustainable, that you can find some sort of revenue stream and, at some point maybe turn into a full-time job. So, after you did the job you were doing with the VIP card and that kind of stuff, how you got into this job?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So did that magically at one South by Southwest. This girl sat at our table and it ended up being Lindsey, your friend from high school and, my partner in crime. And now I have a 4-year-old, so spoiler alert. But, I met her, we'd hit it off pretty quick. And on our probably like 5th or 6th date, she's like, hey, I know this is a little weird, but we were living in the office at the time. Like, hey, I have this space I just rented downtown and I have guests showing up tomorrow. So can you help me like unpack some boxes? I'm like, okay. And so what she had done is prior to her meeting me, she had read like the 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. And like she has her business, American Dance Training Camps, now been running for 20 years where it's like dance camps, girls 8 to 17 years old. But anyway, in the book, Tim Ferriss talks about how he did a round the world trip where he bought a literal like round the world ticket and went by himself and traveled to all these places, but would work remotely from his computer. Well, she did that, which like I thought was the most rock star thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
She went for 15 months and traveled around the world while working on her business. Like at that point, going to Wi-Fi, like places that had like dedicated Wi-Fi, and it was like, you just go for the internet cafe type of situation.
Yeah.
But she was able to pull this off. But her kind of, one of her takeaways from that was if she would travel to a place by herself and she stayed in a hotel, she would watch a movie, get takeout, like go see the big church or whatever the thing is, but she would rarely meet anybody. But if she stayed in a hostel or something where it was a more shared living situation, she would actually meet people, go out to dinner with them, maintain friendships, like find out why that person's there and then join them on their adventure for that reason. And like it just became this magical experience every single time she was in a shared space like that. So I had no idea what I was signing up for on date 5 or whatever it was when I go down to this Austin space. And literally she had the person that built her sister Hillary's tree houses for her kids. She had that person put up partitions in this big 1,000 square foot warehouse that's probably made for 2 people and made up these little rooms to where now 8 people could sleep there. And she put in these bunk beds. She put in these sliding barn doors, like in the little mini rooms that she made. And yeah, she's a rock star at this. And this is something that your audience will like definitely learn from and love.
Oh my gosh. Before
she even signed the lease on this place, she made fake pictures of like what she wanted it to be, put up a listing on Airbnb, and waited until she got 5 bookings before she signed the lease. That's really smart.
And what did she call that? Was that just when she first created it, was it just like Airbnb place? Like what was it?
I mean, it was a co-living and co-working place. The idea behind it was like individuals, whether solo travelers or digital nomads that can like work from wherever they have their Wi-Fi, they could stay there in Austin. It was like centrally located, like 1 block off 6th Street, 2 blocks off Congress, like prime location in Austin. Where that place is now is like going to be a 75-story building. Like it was kind of a unicorn location.
When you guys were first starting this, or when she was starting this, how did you guys find guests? Was there like, do you ever worry about people coming in who are kind of shady or don't fit in or cause problems?
Yeah.
I always think about that stuff.
For sure. Well, I mean, so she started it at the beginning. She was the one handling all the Airbnb stuff. Over the first couple months, like, hey, if I can help out with anything, I'd love to. And like slowly evolved into that role, like helping out with like Airbnb stuff. But the main thing is like strangers living together, you're going to have like random problems occur. But as we saw like, ooh, okay, these people are just looking for a cheap place. We need to really, really specify in the listing that this is a shared room. This is for social people. This is for someone that wants to meet other people in town. And like essentially try to scare away anyone that wasn't the right fit. Like harshly reject the wrong customers.
Right.
And like, we definitely got burned at the beginning with a few people that would just book because it's like a $60 room in the heart of downtown Austin when everything else is $200 or more.
Right.
Also put enough in the description on Airbnb to just say, this is who we're looking for. This is the kind of people we're looking for. Like all of that would push away the wrong people and then help attract the right people.
So let's keep going. Tell me I want to hear the transition of how you went from this to you kind of taking it over. Because it seems like it's obviously gone from much bigger than just this house in Austin.
So one quick point that's amazing also is she didn't own it. She rented it.
Oh.
So she rented it and then re-rented it, which is another like really smart way to do it where like you're not out hundreds of thousands of dollars. You're out a couple $1,000s a month and you just have to make up that couple $1,000s a month.
Right.
There's no like huge down payment you have to ever recapture or, make up.
She rented it and was allowed to put the partitions up, though? She was allowed to remodel it, essentially?
That part, definitely, probably not. That's one of the reasons I love her. She's definitely like, they didn't say I couldn't do that. Like, well, they didn't. All right, that's fine. And like, she definitely will like prove an idea before going through all the little check boxes to like get it perfect.
Right.
Like her mentality on that, and I think it's so smart, is just like, put it out there in like an imperfect form, get people to pay for it, enjoy it, leave glowing reviews about it. And then it's a real business and you can figure out how to do it correctly later.
Right.
And I think that's like such a smart way to do it. One of the things she was doing at the time that really opened up my eye also to like Airbnb, like a condo, like overlooking the river in Austin. Mm-hmm. And she had a 2-bedroom, but like one of the first times I was over there, she's like, oh, well, I have guests in this room. Like, okay, like roommates or like, oh, well, I rented out on Airbnb. And so she would like,
you're like, I am falling more and more in love with you every day.
Like, I love you're crazy. Yeah.
I love how crazy. It's amazing.
So, and to me, I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. You have this pretty fancy, expensive place in Austin, but you're not paying like the actual price for it. You're renting out the other half of it, and that's paying for your rent. On top of that, which I thought was even more brilliant, is whenever she would like go out of town, she would rent her personal bedroom also. That would pay for her flight, pay for her trip, pay for her whatever, and pay for the rent at the place. So I'm like, oh my God, dude, you're hacking the system. Like, unbelievable.
I can't. That to me sounds, I mean, it's all amazing. Totally makes sense. Sounds like a logistical nightmare to me and so much work. I can't imagine that. But I totally can see Lindsey doing that, knowing Lindsey. She's like a hustler. She knows how to like wheel and deal her way. I mean, it's brilliant and genius. I feel like it takes a lot of work to pull that off.
Yeah. I mean, it was totally insane and nothing I'd ever like thought of or heard of. But I was like, oh my God, that's so smart. When you leave somewhere, instead of having like this empty house, you're having people pay you for the place you're not using anyway. And then that's paying for your rent. And that's also paying for your trip wherever you go. I'm like, that's the smartest hack I've ever heard. So we were like looking at different places. Well, it only makes sense. Like we were loving like hanging out with all the people downtown that are at like what we called, like her sister actually coined the name, but it was the SWAP Loft, and it's stay, work, and play.
Yes, I love this name. So I should have said that in the beginning. I don't know why I kept like the
you're good.
secret. So this business, the stay, work, and play, SWAP Loft, I love that. I think it's so genius. I read it like a couple times. I was like, I love it. It's co-hosting and Airbnb rentals, right?
Yeah. So it started as like the hostel type business. Right. And then I'll let you know where it pivots into the co-hosting part.
Okay.
So, we're moving in together. We're like trying to find out like, okay, where are we going to find a new place? Oh, well, it's, we're loving what's going on downtown and it's so much fun. And we're like able to meet all these cool people from all around the world. And it's kind of like traveling without traveling because there's a dude from, New Zealand walking through, cooking breakfast or whatever. There's this house right by Zilker Park, which is where they do like Austin City Limits Festival and all this stuff. Uh-huh. But it's this one house on one of the most popular roads in Austin, and it's the only house there. And it sits there, it has this giant like 2,000 square foot patio, and it was like definitely way too expensive to rent. But we had like, it's not going to be just us living there. We can rent out the entire second half to these same swappers, as we call them, stay, work, and play. Rent out the back half of the house, do the same strategy she did at her apartment. Part of the house is occupied by guests, and that pays for our part of the house. And then when we leave, we rent out our part of the house, and we make money to pay for our travels. So we did that, and we got that second location. For me, at that point, we had 2,000 reviews on Airbnb. I'd been like personally managing 35 different bookings all by myself.
How did you find those people who had homes who wanted to be on Airbnb, but like, how did that even come about to you?
So one was a family member, and then the other one was just a random person on Facebook. Like, hey, are there any experienced Airbnb hosts? My friend needs help like running her business.
So then was this already something other people were doing? I mean, besides for friends, but is like the co-hosting kind of a sub part of Airbnb that already existed? Or did you sort of just kind of create this part of the swap business that you have?
So they already had it. Like Airbnb kind of like offered it a little bit, but just had those two properties that I just kind of did on the side while we were focusing on the major business of like getting a brand new location and doing it all right for our SWAP Loft locations. But then we got to a point where like, we have this expensive house and we have this profile that also has 2,000 reviews and has a bunch of credibility. So I just started like looking on these different like Facebook groups, like Airbnb, Facebook, Airbnb professionals, all these different like little Facebook groups for people to be like, we're with this property management team and not really having a good experience. Does anybody know a host that could help us out? And I would just, put on there like a little screen capture of our profile with all the reviews on it. Like, hey, I just sent you a PM, and would like give them just a little script about us, all the reviews, all the people we've hosted, that we're SuperHosts, all this stuff. And because I could host for people not in my backyard, like I started helping out people in Florida, I started helping out people in North Carolina, I started helping out people in Michigan. Like the person that originally signed up in Canyon Lake, Texas, bought a place in Asheville. And because I knew how to do it all remotely, I could help them out in Nashville too.
So is it like once you get like an owner who you're co-hosting for, that's basically like are going to do that forever? It's not like a one-time thing. They're looking for someone to manage their property and continually manage the guests coming in. So is that when you kind of transition, once you started doing all this and you started getting more like co-hosting houses or whatever, Airbnb listing, did you transition to kind of this being your full-time instead of a side hustle and you helping Lindsey, really, it became your full-time thing? Was there a conversation about that, or did it just kind of become your...
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of just a thing where our backs were up against the wall, and it was like, look, no matter how good I am, I cannot sell a full bed to somebody right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like, it's just like that. There's a time for this business, and like, I love this business, and I love the purpose behind it, and I love bringing people together, and I know that like there's gonna be more and more people that can work remotely and like want to experience new places, but not want to be lonely when they get there. So we'll definitely continue that business at some point. But at that point, that was off the table.
That was off the table. So this podcast, for people who are listening, because I think your business is so interesting because one, you could do it from anywhere. Two, I feel like my question also, unlike the hostel side of your business, like where you actually are putting money up front to rent a place, and then I know you're getting money back, but that involves like a certain amount of investment and cash and that kind of thing. This is interesting to me because I feel like you can get this started with no money. And so I guess I want to ask about some of the tactics you use, and you've explained some of them, but you really basically, to find new owner, I mean, one, it sounds like first you have to, I guess I want to kind of go in order. In order to do this, you have to be an established Airbnb host. Is that kind of what you need, like a reputation on Airbnb yourself?
Yes. I mean, you don't need it necessarily. You need to basically know what you're doing before you're like someone else is going to ever entrust you with their huge investment of their home or whatever it is. You need to like prove that you know what you're doing. But I mean...
And how do you do that? Like if somebody was listening right now and they're like, this seems like an awesome idea. I'd love to. I know a couple people that might be interested in this and I'd love to get started. What would they need to do? Like, what would they need to have a certain amount of reviews? Like you mentioned, do they need to have anything to get started or?
Not really. I mean, honestly, you just have to be knowledgeable about it, but you can do it two ways. You can go through everything yourself and figure it out brick by brick, or you can listen to a bunch of podcasts, read a few books. Like Clubhouse is a great way to hear a lot of like the top people that are Airbnb hosts discuss things.
Is that a podcast?
The Clubhouse is like an app that's essentially like an interactive podcast where, yeah, it's amazing. I got into it for a while and I've like spoken in a bunch of rooms, but the way it works is, there's like, let's say an hour long room about Airbnb SuperHosts. And there's, let's say, 7 or 8 people on the stage that, they'll answer questions that the moderator gives them. But then anyone in the audience that's listening live can press a little button and then ask their question, and then everyone discusses it. Oh. And they've kind of changed it now, but it used to be where it was not recorded at all. So it was like, you have that 1 hour live, kind of like a live call-in show almost.
Right.
And you could ask like any question that someone might not answer like in a public forum or like want to put out that information, like as if it's like a secret to them or like a trade secret type thing.
Yeah,
they would be more than willing to share it on Clubhouse because like there's 50 people listening to it and we're all helping each other out, and like that is a definite like must check out thing for this industry. But also you can find so many little niches on Clubhouse where like if you like the podcast and you listen to them, then if you go to Clubhouse, you can find a lot of those same people that have podcasts. Like you'd be awesome on it.
Well, that is a good resource. I mean, just for people, like I think a lot of people will be listening, wondering like how you did what you did. And so if that sounds like a resource that you used a lot that kind of has offshoots to other things. How did you, like in terms of the competition, because you said you all help each other, are you competing for houses? Like when obviously there's a million Airbnb like houses out there, right? But are people loyal to you now that you're managing their property and you're renting it out for them? Are they pretty much like your client for life? And how, I guess the question is the life cycle, like the cost of finding new clients, like what that process looks like, and then how you retain those clients.
For sure. I mean, so one thing that I've personally done is like, I do have like a ton of experience in this, and I know as a guest and as like a host how to make sure people have a great time. And so one thing I've done, because I do get the question of like, well, how are you going to do a good job if you're not in my town or if you're not, within 30 miles of my home? Well, one thing, I have like all the reviews, but I also make it to where if anybody leaves a non 5-star review, like during their stay, I won't take a commission during that stay. Like that's how confident I am that like I'll deliver a 5-star review every single time from these guests.
That's amazing. Sure, you're taking portion of the rent that's paid. Is that how it works? And do you negotiate that with the owner directly, or do you have kind of set rates with each? Do you set the price of the Airbnb rental and recommend what that is, and then you take a set commission?
Yeah. So, I mean, my whole goal is I get a percentage of like the total amount. My goal is to make them as much money as possible. And then also I win as well because I'm getting a percentage of the higher amount. I obviously try to get as much as I can for their home by using different pricing softwares to boost the rates. There's softwares you can use on Airbnb. One I use is called Price Labs, where like it literally will know if there's an event coming up in your town or if like bookings are going up during a certain weekend, and it'll automatically kick your rate up. I would have no idea that the Texas Salsa Festival is coming in 3 months, but this software will know and kick the price up, and then you get a rate that's twice as much as you normally would get. And you're like, oh, okay, well, that's awesome.
And you just have that set like monitored for the different areas that you've got houses in. And so when you mentioned tools, because I was curious to know how much of this process is automated for you, because you're a one-man band with this too, right? You don't have employees. This is your manager.
Well, I finally just brought on someone to help me out with like the communication and stuff. And so that's been a change for me and something I'm like super excited about. One amazing like entrepreneurial book that I'd recommend for people is called The E-Myth.
The E-Myth, okay.
Yeah. And, it just talks about kind of the same example that I went through when I was younger and I was like doing everything myself. It's like, it's really easy if you're doing it all by yourself all the time and you're trying to learn how to do the web design and this. But like McDonald's, you can go anywhere in the world to McDonald's and you get the same exact burger produced by a high school kid of that country. It's not because they're finding all these employees that can make a mediocre burger. They're like training all these employees to do it exactly their way with just like a little manual. Like, this is how we do it here. We do 2 pickles and 2 things of ketchup and the sesame seed bun that's toasted for 30 seconds and whatever it is.
Yeah.
But because they like have figured out how to do it one time and they created a system behind it, where like we do this, we do this, we do this, we do this, we do this. You can find almost anyone to follow your step-by-step guide and do it 90% as well as you can do it by yourself.
That's the kind of stuff that I think you're being able to have somebody else manage, but it's like there's so much communication, I would think, that goes into it, because you've got people at all these properties, you've got the property owners. So I just think about you traveling and doing all that, and it sounds like dreamy, but then I'm like imagining your inbox blowing up, or you getting like a phone call at like 3 a.m. being like, I don't know, somebody broke something in my house, or we have these crazy people, or like any of those issues. I mean, does that happen? I mean, and you're the only person who's answering all this, and you've got to figure out like how to remedy those situations single-handedly. So
yeah, I mean, it was definitely there, and it was definitely like the weight of the world for a little while. I mean, again, now I've brought someone on that can help me, but the main thing is like with this business, if you're not going to be there locally, you need to have a really solid cleaning team, and they have to be your eyes and ears. And like, so one thing I do personally, because I'm doing everything remote, and this won't be necessarily necessary for most people that are doing Airbnb, but I have amazing photos taken of the property, but also have a 3D tour taken. Oh, where like, since I've never been to this certain house in North Carolina, I have this 3D tour where I can walk through it 1,000 times if I want to at any point during the night. And so someone's like, hey, the bottom bedroom has blah, blah, blah. I can like quickly on my computer, go to that bottom bedroom and look and see what it is and figure out how to fix it. And then send that screen capture to a plumber through a website called Thumbtack, which helps you find like handyman photographers, all this stuff. And yeah, so it's better than me actually being there, because I can have access to what the home looks like at any point, and then, send that image to the person I need that can actually go there and take care of it. And a lot of times where you can't do anything immediately, but if you're just like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, this is unacceptable, I really apologize, I'm going to send you $50 to buy you some appetizers or drinks tomorrow, and I'll take care of it as soon as I can. And like, just go out of your way to make sure they still have an amazing experience. There's a weird business kind of thing that happens. There's no problem, people are pretty happy.
Yeah.
If a problem occurs and then you like have a really good recovery and you fix it and you make them feel good about it and feel taken care of, you'll actually get better reviews in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
Like, people are even more excited and like more like passionate about your business and how you handle things, because like there was something that was out of your control and you took care of me and you took care of it.
Yeah.
And
Well, you've got like the client. I mean, you're dealing with clients who own the house, and then you're dealing with the actual people who are staying in the house. And would you say your business is really driven by reviews? Is that what drives your business? Is that how you grow your base of more owners that you're managing property for? Is it all based on reviews, really?
Yeah. I mean, so one thing that's cool about this business that I love is you are getting reviewed by a third party every single weekend at these different homes. And so because of that, it's really hard to let things go by the wayside, because if something's wrong and you get a review that says, hey, so-and-so's wrong, or, you have like fresh eyes property all the time. The reviews are amazing because you get to find out everything you're doing right. But if anything goes wrong, that problem is told to you immediately.
Are they required to leave a review after they stay? I mean, because is that required? Because you got to SuperHost status, which I'm assuming is based on a certain review.
Yeah,
reviews, right?
For sure. And like I said, like I only get paid a commission when I get a 5-star. So obviously strive for that every single time.
Oh, you only get paid commission when you get a 5-star.
Yeah.
And that's your policy though.
That's my guarantee to the host, and just or like guarantee to the owner, just to show like, look, I know I'm not in North Carolina, but I know I can do this and I know I can do a great job.
Yeah.
And here's my like kind of guarantee to show that I will, because look, I've done it for these many homes, have this many reviews. You can look and see, read through my profile and see if you can ever find a bad review. But if there ever is one, even if it's not my fault, then I won't take a commission.
I think that's neat. Is that unique? Is that unique?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm the only person that does that to my knowledge in this business, but it's something I just came up with because I'm like, how do I prove to someone how serious I take this and how good of a job I'm confident I can do? And that just kind of like puts myself out there. Like, look, I'm so confident I can do this job without being there, that if I don't get a 5-star review, you don't pay me a commission on it. Obviously, if anything goes wrong, I'm going to work my butt off to fix it so it doesn't happen 2 times.
It sounds like, do you have to find new properties, or are people coming to you now because you have a reputation?
So I'm definitely getting people to come to me now. And honestly, like I told you about the whole like documenting thing, where I'm trying to document everything I do. But I've really been focusing a lot on that and trying to get that all dialed in before really marketing to all the people that I've hosted before or potential property owners. Just I want to make sure like I can get to 100 properties and not have any drop off.
How many properties do you have now?
Like 21.
21. Okay. And is 100 the goal? Is that kind of where you want to be, or is it like you'd love to have thousands? So
my main goal is like location independence, which I've already hit. That's just kind of like my guiding North Star goal. Like I want to be able to spend time with my family, enjoy things, and never like accept a property where I have to be in that location. But I mean, as I fine tune these systems and like get to where I can bring on a few more people, I could definitely handle over 100, get to 1,000. I mean, I know at this point, through being a traveler so often and then also hosting so many people, I know how it works during a guest stay. And I know what they're experiencing or expecting as a guest coming into a place. And my whole goal is to like make sure they have an amazing time in the home, but then also give them recommendations to have an amazing time in the location where they're going. Yeah, I think that, well, I was going to ask you, what do you think makes you stand apart? You told me about the commission part. What makes you stand apart from the other co-hosts who are offering to manage properties? I think mainly it's that one of the things I do different is there are a lot of automation softwares you can use to like just send messages, but I always text message with my guests where like, you know, the day of check-in, I text them little information about us, their door code, and let them know if you have any questions, text me at this number. And that way I'm like in their phone versus in the Airbnb platform. They can text me, they can send me pictures, they can get a hold of me quickly. And I think that just like kind of reaches out across from being an Airbnb to being like Sean or SWAP as a host. Right. That's like there to actually take care of them. I mean, there's a few other things like, you know, the morning after they check in, I send a checkup message, which, you know, we've stayed in a couple dozen Airbnbs in the last couple months, and I've only one person has done that the entire time. Just like checked in to say,
the guests, or you send it to the property owners?
No. It's all to the guests.
This is all to the guests. You're saying you text the guests, so they have. Oh, that's really
just to make sure, like, to discover if there's any issues, or just like make sure they're having a great time. If they tell me about any issue, I'll apologize profusely, make that right as fast as I can, and then get them back on track to have a great time.
Got it.
And I mean, eventually, I'm thinking one of my like main marketing strategies to get new hosts is to reach out to the thousands of people that have hosted before and let them know, like, hey, if you or your friend or your aunt or whoever has an extra property that wants to be on Airbnb, I can provide the same hosting experience I gave to you at their home.
Are you doing that now? Like, do you have active marketing that you're doing? Is that just like an idea you're thinking about kind of?
No, I mean, that's something I've kind of got loaded and I'll eventually execute on. But right now, I've just been mainly focusing on building all my systems. I've taken on a few properties here or there. I've grown with several owners that I have where they've bought new homes and I've just grown with them to those new locations. Every property owner that I like work with has purchased or added at least one home that I've also taken over, which is like, that's like a really good measuring stick for me. Like, look, they're so confident that I'm doing a good job that they're like putting down more money to buy a new home to continue this going.
Well, and you get to work like in the same relationship, which is nice. It's like the same person that you know.
For sure.
Brilliant.
Exactly. And I mean, like what I try to offer is like a completely hands-off experience for them to where they just kind of have money show up in their account. I have a whole like financial dashboard set up so they can see.
Is that through Airbnb or do you have a separate?
It's all like something I kind of Frankenstein together.
Oh, okay.
So it's like definitely kind of my own proprietary setup. And yeah, just kind of like figured it out how to make it work and a lot of it to work automatically without me messing with it. So it's been nice.
Well, I was going to ask you, and then I'll wind it down. I know you have a kid and all this stuff and I've taken so much of your time, but my question was also, so this is all through the Airbnb platform. I feel like you've built this business, you're growing this business. Do you see yourself? I mean, are there leaders in this who are using Airbnb as obviously the like platform, but is there a world in which you'd move away from Airbnb and kind of do this in your own and brand this, like come up with your own systems and your own platform? Or do you always see using Airbnb because that's kind of the main platform for?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll be rolling out like my own direct booking website where I can message all the guests that I've hosted before and let them know like, hey, I don't just host at this one place. I host in these 25 places and like get them to book directly with us. And like I said, the 3D tour thing I have. Yeah, well, I use it for myself personally. I use it for the cleaning teams to like stage it exactly like that 3D tour. So if they have a replacement person, they're coming in and they can know exactly how to set that home up to the owner specifications every time.
That's so
Then also for prospective guests, they can also like view the home and walk through the home before they book it, have already stayed with me at a prior location and know like, hey, I'm going to take care of you just like I did there. And like, here's the amazing house I have in Florida that you're going to or wherever. That'll all definitely eventually build on itself. VRBO and Airbnb will always be used as marketing channels just because they have a much bigger advertising budget than I'll ever try to spend. So they'll get a bunch of customers the first time. Mm-hmm. My goal is just to make sure they have an amazing time and then have them book with me the second time, third time, fourth time, fifth time.
Yeah. Well, if you're doing your own too, like you could capture that data. The data is yours too, and like market to those people. And
for sure.
Kind of, I always wondered about because Airbnb, it's like people have built these businesses. Is co-hosting kind of like a leading business? It's sort of like a growing thing in Airbnb? There are like a few leaders like yourself, or are there tons and tons of people doing this?
There's a good amount of people that are doing like one or two houses. You know, there's maybe a few dozen companies that have dozens of homes, especially it's very rare for like an individual or just a few people to be running as many as I am. I feel confident about my ability to scale. My main thing is like, I love doing it and it's fun. Like outside of like the random 4 a.m. or the random problem text, which again, I'm trying to remove myself from having to answer that immediately.
Yeah.
Most of the time you're dealing with people that are there to have fun on a vacation, getting together with family or friends, or there for a wedding or whatever it is. You know, it's not like you're working at the DMV where everyone's there, like is coming in with like a bad attitude.
Angry, yeah. That is so cool. Since I already have your cell number, I think I'm going to have to get into one of your properties. So I could be like, all right, tell me where to go. I want to experience what it's like to have you as, what do you call yourself? Just a co-host? Like when somebody gets in, is that what you call yourself? The co-host?
Yeah. I mean, for the most part, almost everyone that stays with us just thinks I'm the owner of the house.
The owner.
Like they don't even know I don't own the house. I've never been to the house. Any of that stuff. They just me on the profile, and I just say, we look forward to welcoming you to Asheville, and can't wait to show you a great time. They have no idea. By the way, actually, that's not just our one house. We actually have 30 homes around the country. And also, if you know anyone that has an extra house or like wants to get an Airbnb, we can handle that too. And I mean, like for any of your listeners, that would ever want to get interested in this, I mean, if you have a spare bedroom or if you have an extra house or if you go on vacation for a while and it's legal in your area, you could just start with like renting out your place and just make sure you enjoy being hospitable and having people have a great time and showing them how to do that in your area. If it scratches your itch and you know someone that has an extra place or has an extra part of their house that isn't being used, and you have a good rapport with your friend or whoever that is that has that situation, you could absolutely do the same kind of business.
Well, you're great. You're obviously great at what you do. Do you see, I just have one more question and then I want to hear, tell people where they can find you. But so you're just in the US right now? Do you see?
There's a couple places in Jamaica.
Oh, in Jamaica. Okay.
It's just like a friend of a friend. They're just like 2 small studio apartments. But
do you see taking this more global? Do you see taking it internationally, or is that too difficult to manage with all the different things?
I could see it happening eventually, but it's not like a major focus for me, just because, there's an infinite amount of homes in the US, the world's largest market already right here, and it's convenient time zones. I know how it pretty much works here. And also, whenever you have different countries, there's different cultural things that I wouldn't necessarily be privy to. But I know essentially how it works in the US in most cases. So this is definitely my lane for right now. But like the systems I'm building and everything else could eventually work other places.
Yeah, no.
But I mean, again, as much as I love this business and want to grow it, it's not like a goal for me to be like
world domination
or anything like that. My main goal is I want to be able to have location and time independence where I can go to the playground with Jackson at 3:00 in the afternoon at a random place in Canada or wherever we're at and not have to worry about it. That's the main focus.
And you have that now, right? Would you say you've accomplished that? Yeah, you have that now.
Yeah. And I mean, again, like it all started, it went from side hustle before COVID, the alive time during COVID where I had, oh my God, okay, we have this very expensive house and we have to pay for it. And business is on pause too. And we got to make this happen. Yeah, it all just kind of grew out of that.
It's like a full time, but and it's amazing. My last question, where do you see the business then? Do you have like different goals for pivoting it, or you feel like in the next 2-3 years, do you have any vision for it? Or is it just to kind of continue to grow and automate and kind of pass off some of those responsibilities so you can have more free time?
Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing is to build all the systems like I talked about to where I can pass it off to people and like make it so simple that anyone I bring into it can like quickly look up an answer and send it back like exactly what I would have done with my years and years of experience, thousands of guests, and have it operate just as well without me there. But I do want to expand the business. I just think my main goal is just to make it to where I can focus on working on the parts of it that I love and not do all the little day-to-day stuff that can be a grind or can be a distraction from like when I'm trying to hang out with the family, etc. Like I love working on it and I don't consider it work in a lot of cases, but I want to also be able to put my phone down for a couple hours and not have to mess with it. This co-hosting branch of it will always be, something we do.
Yeah, no, that's really smart. And for anybody who's listening who wanted to get started, you did offer the tip of like just trying to rent out your room. Is there anything else you can think of? I felt like you threw out some good like Clubhouse, great recommendation for them to check out. Is there any other tips you can offer anybody who might be interested in kind of dipping their toe into this area of the business?
In general, with like any kind of passion you have, if you were thinking about making it a side hustle, is just infinite information online now that you can. One thing I do is anytime I'm at the gym or I'm driving or I'm cooking or doing anything where it's somewhat mindless, otherwise, I'll just have my little earbud in. I'll listen to a podcast about that topic, or I'll listen to an audiobook about that topic. I mean, I think that's one of the most important things, is just to continuously learn about the thing you're interested in, figure out people that have already done it, made mistakes so you can avoid those mistakes, and then just get started. Just take one little step, test it out. Don't do like a big thing where you make a whole restaurant at the beginning, make your favorite dish and sell to someone, or, just get a little momentum, get a little feedback, fine tune it, make sure it's something you really want to do, but then just go for it. Give it a little shot. Do like the minimal viable product version of it, where instead of buying a house to Airbnb, maybe find a place where you can rent it out, or a friend that has a place already, test renting it out for them, make sure it works well, make sure you like it, and then you can go from there. Because, you don't want to like buy a house to do an Airbnb and then find out after a couple of days, like, oh my God, I hate this.
Yeah.
Like, this is horrible. And now we're deep into it.
Yeah. Thank you. I think that great advice. Very well said. And I feel like you're an inspiration in terms of what you've achieved, because everybody's looking to achieve kind of location independence, how you put it. And
yeah, just being able to main goal is to be able to work wherever we want and work whenever we want, to where it's a beautiful day on a Tuesday and I want to go off and do something, I can do it.
Yeah.
But instead of definitely having to be 9 to 5, okay, it's nice. I want to go out and I want to experience something right now.
Yeah. No.
So that's the dream. That's the goal. I'm still not 100% there, but I'm working on it.
Oh, you're almost there. You and Lindsey are like the power duo. All right. So I've kept you so long. Just tell me all the details of where to find you on the interwebs and all that.
The interwebs?
Yeah, all the interwebs.
So pretty boring. Main thing is just go to stayworkandplay.com. That'd be the best place to kind of get a feel for our business, whether if you want to look at it, see what we do, or if you have a home and you are wanting to put it on Airbnb, I'd be happy to talk to you some tips. Or if you want us to take it over, I'd be happy to do that. Or if you want to stay at some of our properties, those are on there as well. So stayworkandplay.com, that's the main place to go. And then I have very lame Instagram presence, very lame Facebook presence. The system's built and all this stuff, and I start marketing, then I'll do all that. But right now I'm really just focused on fine tuning the business. I'm already expanding naturally, but my main thing is I want to make sure I maintain that high quality before I open up the floodgate of advertising really widely. I want to make sure I can handle anything that comes in. But for now, just stayworkandplay.com.
Well, that's easy.
Hit me up. Any questions you have, love to chat. I mean, obviously I can ramble on about this for a long time. So
no, this is great. Thank you so much. And I love, just on a side note, so anyway, well, I'm so happy for you guys. And thank you so much again for doing this. That was great. So much information. So I really appreciate it.